everybody. This is Kristen. I want to welcome you to another episode of Connect with KB, where we are going to reach out this morning and we're going to connect and talk about business and education and leadership and all the wonderful things that connect us to each other. My guest today has dedicated her career at AT&T to serving people and providing connectivity for thousands and thousands of Michigan residents. I want to welcome to the podcast Yvette Collins, the Director of External Affairs at AT&T Michigan. Thanks so much for joining me this morning, Yvette. It's good to have you here.
Yes, it's great to be here, Kristen. I appreciate that you're having me on.
You bet. Absolutely. I want to talk about the Yvette Collins story. Share with me the ins and outs of who you are.
Well, first, I'm a mom. I've got 3 adult children. My youngest is 19. I'm a cheerleader for AT&T, and I'm a wife. So each of those roles is very important to me, and I've learned a lot about myself, I'd say, as most of us have in this last year, about how those 3 roles connect, because I've had a lot of time with 2 of my children, have been home since the pandemic started last March. And we've had a lot of time in the house because I've been working from home for AT&T for the last, almost going on a year now. We've been, right after the governor's orders came out in March, we were all told to work from home, and so we've been doing that since then, which is one reason I'm joining you on the phone instead of in person. We're still trying to keep as much in-person contact down as we can right now until, things start to get a lot better with COVID.
Yeah, I wonder if, I want to ask you, has that been a difficult adjustment for you? I mean, I suspect now, a year in, obviously it's much better, but how was it when you first started?
It was pretty crazy when it first started because what's funny is I'd never considered myself a person that could work from home. I like getting out in the morning, going into the office, the quote-unquote water cooler, chats that we would have in the morning, and I do miss those. But I would say probably about May, I started getting used to, I felt my self-adjusting pretty well to it. And, as I said, I've got 2 kids that were home, so we all had to find our kind of areas in the house where we could be and do our work and do our own thing and not conflict with each other. So that was a challenge, but I think by May we sort of got that sorted out and figured out. And my husband, he's always worked from home. He's self-employed, so he does instrument repair. And so that was another adjustment, too, because it's like, wow, we've got everybody in this house, from morning until evening. And figuring that out took some time, but I would say we became pretty adjusted by May.
Well, I think that I've talked to a lot of people, and they've had to say that same thing, that, there were moments where you just kind of had to take a little step back and realize that, it's a lot. And finding those places, in the home that everybody can go to, and everybody being on the internet at the same time. And speaking of the internet and the great work that you do at AT&T, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your tenure and how has the company changed over the years. I know you've moved into 5G. We can get into that, but let's talk a little bit about the changes that you've seen.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because I've been with the company. April will be 33 years, so I've had a long tenure. And I started, and a lot of folks won't even recognize what this is, but I was a directory assistance operator when I started in 1988. And that was a place you'd call, and maybe people still do that to a certain degree today, but you'd call to get a phone number. You didn't know the phone number for Meyer, the phone number for, a boutique you were going to. You would call and get that phone number. And it's sort of to see us transition from just having that be one of the early focuses. And then I also I had spent some time in Yellow Pages, another big industry for us at the time. We're selling Yellow Page ads and having these directories. And both those things, directory assistance and Yellow Page advertising, they're like dinosaurs now. So I've seen the complete evolution in my role because I got to see when we started to come to market with long distance. I mean, if people think of that as something you always had, the ability to get on your cell phone and make a long-distance call or whatever, but that was a transition. So I feel like I've seen it from one of its earliest inceptions, technology-wise, to where we are now. And, of course, AT&T also owns Warner Media, so now we're in the movies. I mean, we've got a pretty wide reach, and I never would have imagined that, when I first started as a directory assistance operator, that I'd see so much change in my career.
Well, I see. So for you, there might be a book in your future. You should think a little bit about that. I think you'd be an outstanding author, Yvette, so keep that in the back of your mind. You've talked with me before about your community outreach and how important it is, and it really has become the hallmark of your role at AT&T. I know that AT&T has made some significant investment during COVID, some COVID outreach and supporting a lot of different initiatives. I know a recent one for you is the Lansing Built to Last and other community endeavors. Let's talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, and that's great. I'm glad you mentioned that. This Lansing Built to Last, I was really excited. Michelle Massey from DuPont had reached out to me, I think, last year, and she had this great idea. And she proposed that, it's almost like a Shark Tank challenge is how I would describe it. She wanted some sort of business that we could bring to downtown Lansing that would be COVID-proof. So she started reaching out to various businesses, and she asked, if AT&T would be interested and have a role in this. And I said, of course, because I love downtown. I love downtown Lansing. And I just took a walk downtown for the first time in a long time yesterday, and I was really a little saddened by just seeing what's not there anymore, just in this short period of time. I mean, the YMCA, I had heard that it was not going to be downtown, but to walk by and to see the equipment gone, just to see a low number of people downtown right now, it's very, very discouraging. So this Lansing Built to Last is really trying to encourage startups to apply for it. And if you're a startup and you've got a great idea that would be COVID-proof, meaning it's something that, can exist downtown, bring people downtown, and is not as susceptible to a pandemic as some of the businesses that haven't been able to thrive since this all started, this gives that startup an opportunity to propose that idea and have it funded pretty much for a year. You've got a location that's a rent or a space that's downtown for this business to be located, and you've got all these services that different sponsors are bringing in offering. So AT&T is really excited to be part of that.
Well, I am a big fan of Michelle Massey's at DuPont, and I know that she was recently on with Chris Buck, who's got a podcast on this network, Michigan Reimagined, and talked about that. And there are so many great companies involved. Michelle and I had an opportunity to talk last week, and I am going to be a mentor for the Lansing Built to Last initiative as well. And so I'm excited about that. But there are so many great people involved, and if there are some entrepreneurs who are interested, you can certainly get onto the Lansing Built to Last Facebook page and find out more information. I think it's a great opportunity, and I really admire Michelle putting that initiative together. What other things are you working on from a community perspective?
Well, I will tell you some of the things that we did, and I've got a couple things that I'm excited that we're some work in the community that we'll be doing this year, but those haven't been finalized. But I did want to mention that there were a couple things we did I thought was interesting, and I had never, visualized this until the pandemic, was Blue Owl Community Coffee Spotlight. I don't know if you remember that, but they started doing a program where businesses could sponsor either McLaren or Sparrow by purchasing coffee cards from Blue Owl and give to first responders. So we participated in that last year, and that was really cool because it was a small way, but it was a great way to kind of be engaged, with the community and say, look, we're supporting Blue Owl because they need the support because people aren't going in coffee shops when everything was shut down. And I thought that was a great pivot for them, that they were able to figure out a way to still, be in it, get people coming in to get coffee and also support first responders at the hospitals or frontline employees at the hospital. And we participated in that program last year. We also did some things with Capital Area College Access Network. That's one of my favorite organizations in the community because they do a lot to get kids prepared for college, in our area. We had a contribution to the Lansing One Fund, which supported a lot of families in need during the pandemic. I'm a big believer in communities and schools in Michigan. I serve on the board there. And so I can see firsthand all the good work that they do. So there are a lot of great things in our immediate community, a lot of things that are going on in a lot of ways for organizations to be engaged.
Well, not only here in Lansing, but I also know that you have a very special place in your heart for Detroit. You native from Detroit, and want to talk a little bit about the mission of Believe Detroit and that initiative with Cass Community Social Services.
Sure. So Believe Detroit, and we actually have a larger AT&T Believes, but specifically the AT&T Michigan's Believe Detroit is this really neat community and employee engagement initiative, and it's aimed at helping promote educational opportunities, academic achievement, and a path to self-sufficiency for the Detroit community. And Cass is on that third leg of this mission statement. Cass Community Social Services is really this great organization in the area of Detroit that helps those that really need it. I mean, it has a workforce that's made up of folks that are homeless and formerly homeless. It gives them an opportunity to do some to actually be engaged in doing work. They have this community of tiny homes that Reverend Faith Fowler has created, and what it is, it allows low-income folks to have their own home in this neat little community in an area of Detroit that was for years very neglected. And Cass has built up this great area and this network of housing for folks that need it the most. And so AT&T's been engaged with Cass on a number of projects. Before the pandemic, the last thing that we did is we did this neat tire project where we got a bunch of our AT&T volunteers to come out, and we all got dirty, and we cleaned up a lot that had a lot of abandoned tires, and we took it back to Cass. And what they do with those is they make mud mats, and they so these homeless folks or formerly homeless folks, and we work with them that day too, work on creating these mud mats that can be sold at a Cass store. And all the money that is made goes back into supporting the Cass community. And it's just great. I love Detroit. I grew up and was raised in Detroit, so it's a significant part of my life, and it's great that I was able to, find this great community partner, and Cass is excellent for what they do in the community.
Yvette, you have just such a big heart, and this comes so naturally to you. And I know that recently you were recognized by the Michigan Chamber of Commerce in their Michigan Athena Lead Like a Woman Spotlight series. I think that was so appropriate. Your leadership, to me, at AT&T has really been something that I admire. Let's talk about your leadership style.
Sure. Well, I guess, what's funny is I think of I would say my style is just recognizing the value of individuals and understanding that each individual brings some unique experience to an issue that provides the value that no one else can bring. And that's not, you can't, as a leader, you aren't setting any agenda. You have to recognize what your people have, and you have to harness that, and you have to work with that. To me, that's true leadership. And I've had a lot of strong female leaders in my tenure at AT&T, and that influence has been great because, what they had different styles, but what was consistent is that they were logical and persistent in figuring out how to complete a task at hand or getting a job completed. And those are things that I try to use myself when I'm when I have an opportunity or when I find myself trying to influence others.
Well, David Lewis, the president of AT&T Michigan, was on this podcast in August of 2019. He said his greatest leadership lesson was to lead from behind, that making sure Yvette Collins is doing her job and that she's being supported and making sure you have all the resources you need was important to him, that your success is his success. What does that mean to you?
I think, and I'm glad you mentioned that. That's very accurate and it's very true, and that is definitely how David Lewis leads. He is he's very appreciative of the team that he has, and he takes every opportunity to make sure that the energy of the team is harnessed. And he's been with us since 2018, and it's been a great experience to have someone that's at the helm that really respects the team that he has.
Well, I tell you what, Yvette, you guys have just such an outstanding team at AT&T. I want to thank you for coming on with me this morning.
Thank you. It was great to chat with you, Kristen. Thank you so much.
You bet, Yvette. My guest this morning, Yvette Collins, the Director of External Affairs at AT&T. I want to thank my supporting sponsors, Marketing Resource Group, Governmental Consultant Services, AF Group, AT&T, the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, and the Fraser Law Firm. You can listen to all of my podcasts at connectwithkb.com. Until we connect again, go live your best life. I'm your host, Kristen Beltzer.